What are millennials doing to deal with the terrible economic situation that they graduated into? Well, AJ Plus looked into this story and they actually created this really great video showing that millennials might have inherited a terrible economic situation, but they've been resilient enough to make the best of it. Now, usually when you hear stories like this, they're pretty negative. There's a lot of sob stories regarding people in the millennial generation. But I like this story in particular because it shows you how some millennials can make lemonade out of lemons. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the video.
The baby boomers, who came of age in a time of prosperity, are passing on to their children a broken country with an enormous federal deficit and little hope of job prospects. Our healthcare system is barely functional, infrastructure arguably pathetic, and income inequality is the highest it's been since 1928. Yikes. And yet, somehow, we're still stubbornly optimistic about our financial future. More than 80% of us say we currently have enough money to lead the lives that we want, or at least expect to in the future.
All right, so I left you with a little cliffhanger there. You guys should watch the full video in the description box below. They give you some really great information, and I think it extends beyond millennials. I think it has to do with anyone who had to deal with the economic downfall of 2008.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'll tell you about was the fact that a lot of people are now relying on something referred to as the gig economy, which I wasn't even aware of. The gig economy is not something that I find appealing, and I admire those who make the best of it. It's where you freelance and you find a lot of different jobs to make up your entire income. And so you might be a Lyft driver, and then on the side you're working at a coffee shop, and then on the side you're working at a library. You're doing all these little jobs, and all together it comes up with enough money for you to pay your bills. There are other strategies that millennials have come up with to kind of make the best of the situation they're in. But I love this. I love the resilient nature of millennials, and a lot of times they get a bad rap, but the reality is they're finding ways to cope with the situations that they're dealing with.
100%, especially when you just brought up that gig economy. I mean, even though I have a master's degree, I actually do that. Every hosting job I get is that sort of freelance, going here and here, every writing job. And it's one of those things where we've just been instilled that you're gonna work, you're gonna be driven, this has been the shitty hand you've been dealt, and you're gonna figure out how to make it work. And I think that I'm glad that this is coming out because it's giving a lot of Gen Y millennials that sort of push to say, hey, listen, not everyone's downing you, and not everyone doesn't see what you've had to deal with. Like, we understand that you've had a lot of challenges, and we're gonna support you.
Exactly, and things are very different when you compare the last two generations, right?
Oh, yeah.
Gen X and Gen Y. Gen Y millennials are not necessarily looking for that suburban, picturesque lifestyle that Gen X had. They're moving into the cities and they're doing things that honestly are kind of socialist, right?
Yeah.
It's a shared economy and they're comfortable with it. And I think that that's a really interesting way of handling what I would consider a really terrible situation. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to AJ Plus. They put together these really great informational videos about lots of different topics that we actually do discuss on TYT as well. So check that out, subscribe to AJ Plus.